Well, this is what we're working on today. When we left off in the last video, we ended up getting tabs welded on the rail system on this Freightliner truck. Now we're ready to pull it outside, but before I pull it outside, I've got everything hooked to the back of the truck, all of the different hydraulic functions that run the manure tank. We're going to fire up the truck here in a minute, and we're going to make sure we've got everything plumbed the way it needs to be plumbed. I had to change two fittings. I was going off of memory. I had a male fitting here, and I had a 3/8 fitting here for the case drain on this motor that runs the fan here. I had the wrong size case drain fitting. This had a 1/4 inch, I had a 3/8, so I changed his truck over to 3/8. And then the cylinder that opens up the spread plate right there, I had a male fitting coming off of the truck. His has a female, so we flipped that around. And Jason is finishing up getting the tabs welded on the flatbed. So let's go ahead, we'll fire up the truck. I'll set you guys down in behind us here, and I'll try every function, and we'll make sure everything is going to work here on the actual tank itself coming off of the hydraulics. Now, we do have one oil leak, and that is this 1/2 inch pipe thread fitting here coming up out of this adapter fitting. I tried tightening it, it's tight. I don't know if something's cracked here or what, so we've got to take this hose off here. This is the tailgate valve itself, which is going to run the transfer on the tank. So we've got to swap that out. And then this elbow fitting on the back side here is leaking a little bit, and that's a little harder to get to. So I don't know if I've got a bad fitting there as well, or if it was just loose. I don't know. So we've got to address that, but I'm not going to worry about that right at the moment. So let's go ahead and get this truck fired up, and we'll just make sure everything's going to work, and then we can pull it outside, get the tank off, and put the silage box on there. Just lubing up the chain is all. The reason why that wouldn't go up right away is because I had these valves slowed down too much. So that's why that wouldn't go up right away. We've got this metered down so that we can operate this at a manageable level so that it's not running it too fast. We're gonna go back the other way, Jay. That's a nice slow pace right there. Put it down. Now what we've got to check is the transfer cylinder. I won't be able to see that. Is it moving? Yeah, I had this metered down too much here. How fast is it moving? All right. I'm gonna run the fan motor. You'll have to look up in the chain, on the chain coupler. You'll be able to see it from the bottom. So,
yeah, see if that's turned.
Yeah, we want it to go counterclockwise. I want to run it counterclockwise first. Can you see up in there? Good enough? Okay. Let me run it counterclockwise first, because that's going to be actually going forward. Is that going counterclockwise? Which way is that? Which way is that? Clockwise? Counterclockwise? Was it going fast? Okay. It won't. Yeah, I'll try it in reverse. All right, so I've got these hoses here mixed up. Hey Garrett, is that spinning fast? It's going backwards? Okay, so I've got this function here, I've got backwards, so I need to switch these two hoses, and you could see that this fitting is leaking anyway, so that's all good. We've only got that one screw up, so that's good. All right. Good deal. All right, so we're gonna unhook the hoses now, get the tank off of here. I've just got that motor spool hoses that we just ran. I've got that on backwards. I just got to switch it on the valve. Yeah, we'll have to check. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have the silage box on the truck here, and we're working on getting the tabs welded to the sills to bolt it down to the slide rail system. Looks pretty good on there. So that's what it kind of looks like. 5-foot cab shield is perfect on it. And this flatbed is just about ready. Pull it out the door. Jason's got the prop rods on here. We've got to do a set of prop rods. For this one, Nate's building some hoses now for the tailgate cylinders. And earlier they ended up putting the fenders on this truck 12. I don't know if I showed this to you yet or not, but this truck needed fenders, and Jason ended up, well, Sarge and Wilkins and Jason ended up cleaning all the rust off this bottom portion of the tank. They masked it off, and then yesterday Jason put POR on that bottom. That's a little more than a third of the tank. Top coated it with some commercial coatings. They put the fenders on this morning, and Sarge is just getting them lit up here now. So he is getting ready to just ship this out the door. Actually, we probably could leave it in for tonight. Let the paint cure another 24 hours. And everything looks good. LEDs all the way around. And Jared, he's working on the old Bulldog over here. He's moving some things around. Hooking up his wet line hoses a little differently than what he had them. But this one, I don't know if he's got the valve body removed from this. But he ended up putting a commercial valve on this one as well. This is a DVA. Actually, it's a DVJ or D, yeah, whatever the heck it is. But that's the same thing as we've been putting on the other trucks here. It actually has to get some paint on it. But that is a single acting valve with a Power Beyond outlet cover. And that was bolted to the side of the frame. He set that up after he got this truck going. I don't know, did you change the pump out on this? Yeah. You did? What do you got on there? Parker pump? Is that one of them red ones? Yeah. So he's got a heavy duty Parker pump on here, just like what we put on my uncle's truck and what we have on several of our trucks. So we're going to continue working along here to get this body fastened down on this truck. And then what we have to do once we get the tabs all welded on there, we need to slide the box off, clean the frame up on the chassis here, get the rails off, prime the rails and paint the rails, and then we need to put it back on and weld the hoist down to the rails. We have not welded the hoist to them yet. We just put a couple of pieces of angle iron in there so that the hoist wouldn't slide forward. And the tail hinge, we can just pop these pins here out in order to get the angle iron slide rails off of there. So we've got some work left to do here, then we can get things situated. Well, we are actually into the following day. We've got the wire harness for the lights plugged into the back of the truck. We've got our hydraulic hoses made for the tailgate. We're going to try the tailgate in a minute here. And we have the tabs welded on the body itself where it's going to bolt to the sills. We also have our mud flat brackets on both sides. What we're going to do now is we're going to test the tailgate, make sure it works, unplug the wire harness and the tailgate hoses. We're going to pull it outside, we're going to raise it up, and we're going to put the prop rods on there. All they are there for is they're a safety prop to put down so that you can service the hoist. We'll get that on there. We have to do that outside. We have to raise it up, and I can't raise it and here the roof or the ceiling in the shop's not tall enough. We've got the parts right here. That's what we're gonna go ahead and put on there. Let's try the tailgate, get the prop rods on, and once the prop rods are on there, we have to build the legs that the body is gonna sit on up front. When you slide the body off, you'll leave the front propped up in the air so that you can get the chassis in underneath it. So, why don't you run the camera, or you can run the tailgate. Run the tailgate. It's the third lever from the back. Second lever from the back. Don't raise it up all the way, it'll hit the ceiling, so go ahead. Just want to check the hose on this other side to make sure that's good enough. Yeah, so that's good. This is the first that we've seen this since the thing has been painted, the liner that is. All right, go ahead, put that down. All right, shut the truck off and then neutralize that lever and unhook the hoses. All right, so now we're gonna pull it outside and get the prop rods on there. Well, we ended up getting the legs put under the silage box and the prop rods on there. And now we have the slide rail system off and it is upside down. And we're welding the tab mounting bars. We're getting the welding done underneath. And we had some tail hinge work on the back end here that we couldn't reach with the way everything was put together. So we've got that going together, getting right in there and getting it welded good. I've got my uncle's 05 running here. I've got to put the legs on this flatbed so that when he slides the flatbed off, you can set the legs on there and then pull out from underneath it. We'll show you how that works here once we either put a silage box on or we slide one of these off here. So what my plan is to get this painted, get the truck painted, and get the silage box back, get this back on the truck and get the silage box on there. So Jared, he wanted to put a pintle plate on the Mac here. This frame and pintle plate piece here was on his Freightliner. He had a guy that was interested in the Freightliner. He kept dicking him around. He would come out and look at it, drive it, look at it again, tell him that he, you know, gonna think about it, got to get his brother and his uncle and his third cousin to, you know, come out and look at it with him. This guy wanted to, I don't really know what he wanted to do. I think he was a pipe dreamer, if anything else. Now that Freightliner of Jared's, that FLC, it's got a, 3406B cat engine in it. And he wasn't asking a lot of money for it. And the guy kind of shot him a lowball figure, and he said, you know what, for what we've got going on here, we probably don't really have time to screw around with it. The rear, something was wrong in the differential. He had the differential, or he had the axles pulled out of it. There's one on each side of the doorway over there. And for what the guy offered him was actually less than what the engine is worth, but he said, you know what, like I said, it's not worth screwing around with. So he wanted to put a pintle plate on this Mack truck, but it's got an awful short frame. So it was going to involve adding on to the frame and everything else. He pulled his Freightliner in this morning and cut the back end of the frame off. This is, you can kind of see it here. He cut it. This is a heavy frame. This is a 3/8 frame rail here, and that's going to slide right in to this Mack frame here, and he's going to have it stick out a little bit. He's going to have to cut this inner frame rail off, slide in, get it all kind of married together here, and it's going to work perfect. 5 minutes after he cuts the frame on the Freightliner, the guy that had been dicking him around texted him, and he asked what you had going on. You know, he might come down and pick up the old girl. Wasn't quite sure. Had to check his underwear, had to check his socks and his shoes and make sure everything was going together right. And Jared says, I just cut the back end of the frame off. I cut it off. It's not for sale anymore. So the guy says to him, would you consider less money? No. The truck is priced for what the engine is worth. The rest of the chassis is junk. It's a, what is it, an 84 FLC. Actually, the frame is in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it is.
But
Not anymore.
we got part of the frame here, and it's going to go in the, it's going to go into Mack. We can pull the tag along. We'll be able, what Jared wants to do is he wants to be able to pull the tag along trailer. Maybe the frac tank. Maybe.
Probably never do it, but it's nice to have it on there.
It could, you know. We pulled the frac tank before with the C5. The C5's got a heavy-duty pintle plate on it, and so on and so forth here. So he's just trying to clean this up and get it to be a spare truck, and then maybe do some other work with it here. But I need to get that flatbed. I need to get the legs in underneath it, and Sarah's moving right along with getting the underneath part of the welding done here on the rail system. And it's going to be nice to get this project done and get it out of here. Well, we are into the next day. We're going to do some painting here today. We got this chassis washed off here last night. We ended up getting this oil leak taken care of, and through a quick inspection this morning, everything is dry of oil. This would sweat oil right out through this fitting here. The old one that I ended up replacing. We had to switch these two lines here, and I ended up replacing the 90-degree JIC fitting here. I probably could have screwed around with it and ran some emery cloth around on the inside of the gland and everything else, but it's not worth screwing around with. So we need to run down through this chassis quick with a wire wheel, and then we need to cover up some various parts. We need to cover up this gauge so we don't get any paint on it. And I also need to cover up the handles on these flow control valves here, just so that paint doesn't get on them. But other than that, this is going to wrap up basically this job here. So I've also got the rubber to weld onto the slide rail. This comes in 10-foot lengths. I've got a full length there. Had to put a couple of pieces in. The hoist is going to go in that section there, and then I've got to cut a couple of pieces for the front, and then I need a couple of short pieces here for the rear. So we're just cutting this with the chop saw. We cut the metal and the rubber all at one time. Does a decent job. It's not ideal, but it does the job here. So we'll show you what that looks like here with the Milwaukee chop saw, chopping through this it's this cushion material here. It's got a J-channel bent piece that holds the rubber, and then this rubber has a T-groove in it that slides into this metal rail that you weld to either the bottom of the body or the rail system like we're doing. You can also get this in aluminum if you're putting or want to put this on an aluminum bed. So let's go ahead and make a couple of cuts here, and we'll show you what that looks like. It gets a little smoky in here, but that's all right. Well, we are ready to get this party started here. We've got the rail system ready to go. We've got the rubber in place. We've got everything covered up on the truck that we need covered up. And we ended up going down through this with a wire wheel. And to tell you the truth, I think my uncle got the better of the three trucks. When I bought the first two trucks, I told the salesman, I said, you pick out the best two trucks and you send them this way. So I ended up getting this all washed, and you could see just how clean this frame is. I mean, for a truck that's 8 years old, this is unheard of. We do not see trucks like this in our area just because of the salt. A double frame usually starts to have frame jacking from the salt getting in there and the rust starting. But this truck is in beautiful shape. All three of them are in beautiful shape. I had to wire wheel the top part of the frame just because the flatbed that was on there chafed off the paint, and then of course it allowed this to peel here. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit it with urethane primer, and then we'll let that set, and then we'll come on to it with some gloss black. We've got the hydraulic fittings covered up. I want to hit this valve real nicely with some paint. These valves are tough to keep covered in paint. Usually the paint flakes off them just from the heat building up in them and whatever. So we want to do a real good job there and get that all painted. It looks real nice with the silver fittings and everything, but to be honest with you, in due time, those will they'll just turn brown from rust. So I kind of like the look of the silverness to it and everything, but we've got to get that covered in paint. So we're going to really douse this in paint. So this is going to have paint just running off of it because we want to get it on there real heavy. And yeah. So, like I said, everything cleaned up perfectly on this truck. And this is where we're going to close out the video. I ended up getting the primer mixed up. I've got about a half hour to where I have to let this kind of activate here. And what I'm gonna do is I've got to do some house cleaning. I've got to get the floor swept. I've got to get things organized a little bit here, and then I can get priming. So this is where we're gonna sign off with this video. We'll have one more video of this series here, if you will. And tomorrow I plan on putting the rails on, getting the silage box on this truck. I've got his truck outside the door here. We'll put the tank on that for him. And then we have to work into getting the flatbed lengthened and whatever. I figure I've got about a day on getting that prepped and ready. So this is where we're going to sign off, folks. I do want to thank you for watching, and we'll catch you at the next video. We're going to enjoy ourselves here, priming and painting. I did have a couple of visitors here this weekend. This is Sunday. I had 2 visitors yesterday that dropped me off. They were together. They both dropped me off a couple of 30 racks. And I had a visitor today drop me off a 30 pack, or maybe it was a 24 pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon. So we're enjoying some adult beverages here on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. It's raining out. And yeah, so I want to thank the guys that stopped in yesterday. Were from Shenango County, which is about 40 miles, maybe it's a little farther than that, from me. And then the gentleman that stopped in today, he was from Connecticut. His daughter had a swim meet towards Rochester, which is about 70 miles to the west of me here. And them guys stopped in to say hello, and it worked out good for them because I was in here quietly working. So we will get on to splashing some primer and some paint on here. So thanks again for watching, folks, and we will catch you at the next video. I got to get this camera put away, or I'm going to have overspray all over the screen here.